Strong men don't fight for attention. They withdraw with peace. They don't shout, explain, or defend. They simply disappear. And when they do, the silence they leave behind shakes everything. Because real men don't beg to be understood. They walk steady, calm, unreachable. And the most unsettling truth? They never return. If you're ready to hear truths that will change how you see yourself and everyone around you, stay right here. Because once you understand this, there's no going back. 1. He stops explaining. There comes a time when a man's own voice starts to sound foreign. He speaks, but no one truly listens. He explains his feelings, and somehow it's flipped back on him. He's too sensitive, too controlling, too much. Eventually, he begins to wonder if maybe they're right. That's what happens when you talk to people who listen only to respond, not to understand. You stop having conversations. You start performing. Every word is rehearsed, every thought edited. You start walking on emotional glass until you're a stranger to your own truth. That's not love. That's survival. And survival isn't living. A strong man stops explaining, not because he's cold, but because he's clear. He realizes those who truly care will make the effort to understand. The rest? They'll twist his truth into a weapon. He stops giving emotional ammunition to people who use vulnerability as leverage, because he's learned that handing someone your truth and asking them not to misuse it is the same as giving them a knife and hoping they won't cut you. He stops not from bitterness, but from wisdom. His peace no longer depends on being heard. It depends on staying true to himself, quietly, firmly. Men like this no longer chase understanding. They realize being misunderstood by people who thrive on confusion isn't failure. It's clarity. They stop defending boundaries and simply live within them. They stop asking to be treated better and start treating themselves better. Because begging for clarity is where men lose themselves, their confidence, their focus, their fire. When a man finally sees that, explaining feels like a chain. Silence becomes freedom. He no longer just talks, he moves. He lets his absence deliver the message his words couldn't. And that quiet departure becomes the beginning of the life he was meant to live. A life that doesn't need validation, only alignment. He doesn't cut people off in anger. He lets distance do the work. Because when you stop explaining yourself to people who refuse to understand, you finally start hearing the version of yourself that always did. That version builds, executes, evolves. And when that man rises, he doesn't need to speak. His presence becomes the loudest voice in the room. If you've been explaining yourself into exhaustion, let this be your turning point. Don't argue for your worth. Walk in it. You've already proven your strength by staying. Now, prove it by leaving what no longer deserves you. 2. He doesn't play emotional games. He no longer chases mixed signals, mood swings, or hidden meanings. He no longer decodes manipulation disguised as affection. He sees the game for what it is, confusion as control. The endless testing, the silent treatments, the hot and cold rhythm designed to keep him emotionally off balance. But he's done breaking. He's done guessing. Emotional games aren't about love. They're about control. They keep you addicted to uncertainty, always performing to earn peace. One day she's warm, the next she's distant. You reach out, she withdraws. She posts something just vague enough to make you question your place. And when you confront it, you're insecure. That's not connection. That's manipulation. And the strong man walks away, not from fear, but from clarity. He refuses to negotiate with chaos. He stops trying to win someone who takes pride in making him lose himself. He no longer mistakes confusion for depth. He no longer defends disrespect as mood swings. He no longer accepts gaslighting as miscommunication. He knows that love without clarity isn't love. It's a trap. So when she tests him by pulling away, he doesn't chase. He lets go. Because a man who values his peace doesn't chase confusion. He invites clarity. If she calls that cold, so be it. He's not in it to be understood by the unstable. He's in it to live where peace is normal and drama is foreign. You can't build stability on instability. You can't grow in a place where loyalty is a game. So when boundaries are crossed, he doesn't argue. He exits. Quietly. Completely. Games only work on men desperate to play. But he's not desperate. He's disciplined. His rule is simple. If I must lose myself to keep you, I don't want you. And when he leaves, he never goes back. He reinvests that energy into himself, his discipline, his purpose, his evolution. He surrounds himself with people who communicate clearly, who don't weaponize silence or affection. He no longer craves closure. He becomes it. He no longer seeks peace in chaos. He creates it. And if you're caught in those same games, waiting, doubting, second-guessing, ask yourself, how much of your peace are you paying just to feel seen? Love doesn't require performance. It requires presence. And when a man finally understands that, he stops chasing tables that belittle him. He builds his own, and only those bringing peace, honesty, and loyalty get a seat. 3. He values his peace. Peace isn't found in silence. It's found in self-respect. It's when your worth no longer trembles every time someone leaves your message unseen. When your day isn't ruined by someone else's mood. When your self-worth doesn't hinge on being chosen. Because trying to maintain calm in someone else's chaos is psychological erosion. The strong man chooses peace not to escape, but to preserve what's left of himself. He's done being the stabilizer for people who enjoy his calm, but never return it. He's learned that not all love is love. Some of it's dependency, ego, or fear wearing a romantic mask. So he withdraws, not out of anger, but to realign. Because peace isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of balance. It's when your values and actions finally match. When you no longer apologize for wanting consistency. When you no longer tolerate being gaslit into guilt for expecting respect. And when a man reaches that state, he changes. He finds peace in early mornings, in structure, in friendships that don't require constant justification. His solitude becomes sacred. His space becomes protected. He stops giving second chances that turn into second betrayals. He stops confusing apologies with change, and he builds a world where manipulation no longer fits. His priorities shift. Guilt turns to growth. Noise turns to focus. Distraction turns to discipline. People say he disappeared. He didn't. He evolved. Because he finally realized that peace feels better than proving a point. He learned that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. That sometimes silence isn't avoidance, it's clarity. Because peace isn't found where your worth is questioned daily. It's found where your energy is respected naturally. 4. He has standards. When a man finally grasps his worth, everything changes. He stops accepting what's handed to him just to feel accepted. He sets rules, not to control others, but to protect himself. He's lived the price of lowering standards, sleepless nights, anxiety, confusion. He's done paying that debt. So now, his standards are sacred. He doesn't shout about them or argue over them. He simply states them once and observes. He watches who respects them and who sees them as a challenge to manipulate. And when disrespect appears, mockery, emotional withdrawal, guilt-tripping, he doesn't fold. He walks, not to punish, but to protect. He knows disrespect isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in the jokes made when he opens up. Sometimes it's in the silence when he needs understanding. And once he spots that, he doesn't debate. He disconnects. He upgrades his environment, tightens his circle, becomes strict with access. He doesn't excuse manipulation because of beauty. He doesn't confuse charm for character. He's not scared of losing people. He's scared of losing himself again. If you've been bending, tolerating, shrinking, this is your call to stop. Raise the bar, enforce it, and rebuild your life around it. Your standards are not arrogance. They're self-respect. They remind you who you are and what you refuse to become again. 5. He focuses on his purpose. There's a quiet shift when a man stops trying to be seen and starts building a life that speaks for itself. It doesn't happen in anger. It happens in solitude, where all distractions fade and the truth surfaces. Everything he's been giving away needs to return home, to him. He stops scrolling, checking, chasing. He stops explaining. His energy turns inward, to his goals, his body, his craft. He trains harder, studies deeper, builds with precision, not for applause, but for freedom. He no longer asks who's watching. He only asks, what needs to be done? He no longer proves his worth through others. He proves it through results. And as he evolves, his circle shrinks, his focus sharpens, his peace deepens. He sees that most people only loved his availability, not his presence. But when he chooses solitude, their interest fades, and that's how he learns who is real. His transformation is silent but undeniable. His presence commands attention without asking for it, because real power doesn't announce itself, it's felt. He no longer craves to be understood. He becomes someone who doesn't need to explain. The gym, the books, the business, these aren't trends. They're tools for liberation. He audits his habits, reshapes his schedule, prioritizes health, money, peace, every day, not someday. And 6 months later, he doesn't just see progress. He sees a man who no longer breaks when people leave, who no longer begs to be chosen, who no longer fears solitude. He's unshakable, not because life got easier, but because he got focused. He chose purpose over pity, and that choice made him unstoppable. If you're done explaining, done begging, done tolerating, then this is your moment. Choose yourself, commit fully, move silently, build relentlessly, because the man who stops explaining and starts executing never has to say another word again.